No one in the history of the world has ever said, I think I want to buy a home and just clutter it up with stuff that I don't need and stuff that I don't know where to put. But I feel like that's been my life. And you saw my garage. It was crazy and took about a week. In my last video, we cleaned it up. It looks fantastic. And now I just have this decluttering bug where I just want to declutter everything. So for this video, I actually teamed up with the Home Depot, and they're sponsoring this and some of the tools and some of the things that I'm going to be using in this video. But I also teamed up with my readers. So I've got this Facebook group, and we usually do probably 1 to 2 makeovers every 6 months or so, and we all tackle one space. Well, this month was closet makeover. Now, it didn't take 30 days to do this, but when you add in the procrastination, it kind of did. I did not want to do this project because, what do you do with all this stuff that you think you're going to need, but you really don't need? Well, a lot of this stuff I decided to just donate. Those curtains, the gray and white ones, I did keep those. But everything else needed to go. And I wanted to make some new shelves. Now, the shelves are going to be made out of pine, and we're going to get rid of the ones that were the particle board. But before I go into that, how I did that, let me tell you a little bit about the new work table that I got. Some of you loved the existing work tables, but the Home Depot had sent this Husky workbench. It's about 6 feet long, and it was pretty much already assembled when I got it. I just had to unfold the legs and then tighten it up. It was pretty heavy, so my husband came and helped. I think it was about maybe 140 pounds. But what I like about it is that it's a little taller because it's adjustable. And the existing ones that you had seen were only about 31 inches. So I got a little bit of extra, extra height there. And I can still clamp it. I can still, use my reel, pull it down, plug things in. And I'm always out here listening to music. My phone dies. So I like that it's got a USB port. And in case you missed my last video of that garage clean out, this is what it looked like. It was horrible. I tell you, I'm a pack rat. But it looks really good now, and I still can't believe that I've got this amazing clean space to work. So I got started on the shelves, and one thing I like about the table too is that it's 72 inches long. The other ones that I showed you were only 54 inches. So whenever I've got long pieces of wood, it's easy to lay it out, to measure, and to cut, because I can still clamp with it. Now, I usually use a roofing square, a 6-inch, when I'm trying to draw nice 90-degree lines. But guess what? There's a new one that just came out. I'm super excited about this, guys. It's by Husky, and most roofing squares are either 6 inches or 12. But if they're 6, you have to flip it in order to get a nice even line across a wide board. Well, this one just has a little arm that flips out, so when you need that wider width, you can just flip it out. So I like that a lot. So once I clamped down the piece of wood, then I could use my roofing square to help get a nice straight line. But here's one thing I did wrong. I actually put the stupid blade in the wrong direction. So in an upcoming video, I'll explain to you how I did this and why I corrected it. But after I corrected the blade, then I was able to finish the other cuts, and they looked pretty good. And then it was time to sand them down. So I used, and I just did this by hand, I used 150 grit sandpaper, smoothing the sides, making sure it was good for stain. Now here's another thing that I started to do wrong, and I only did it for 2 boards, and then I figured, Serena, stop being lazy. Now when you're staining pine, it can get very blotchy if you don't put a pre-stain down, a wood conditioner. And you'll see here, this is what I did on this board. It looked pretty good, but there were some blotches. So what I decided to do was to stop being lazy, get out my can of pre-stain, and actually apply a coat. This goes on, and you leave it on for what? 5 to 15 minutes, and then you wipe it off. And what that does is it gives you a nice even surface upon which to put your stain. So I do have a link below to a video that I did on pre-stain, and you can see the dramatic difference in using it versus not using it. So that's what I did. For the other 3 boards, I decided to stop being lazy, and I was going to do it properly. Shortcuts, we all try to do it. It doesn't work out that well. All right, so the next thing I did was to add a coat of top coat. I do have a link down below on where you can buy that, but I love this top coat because it just gives it a nice satin finish. And after it dried, I then went over it with 320 grit sandpaper, wiped off the dust, and then gave it another coat. And when it was done, you could see how nice and silky and satiny it looked. It was beautiful. It felt really good too. So definitely 2 coats. And I skipped the ends of the boards because you wouldn't see them anyway. I just put a little bit of top coat on those. Now this is where I also tried to be lazy again. I tried to just clean the closet up and see if I could just skip painting it. I hate painting closets and ceilings. But after taking everything out, I saw how scuffed up things were. I saw how nasty the boards were. And I'm like, you know what? If we're going to do this, gotta do it right. I'm going to have to paint this. And I don't want to paint it. I didn't want to paint the closet, but I'm doing it. Thankfully, I had some semi-gloss paint on hand. I didn't have to go and buy any because I wanted to get rid of this almond color. The walls were scuffed up anyway, and so I didn't want to just do an almond color. I wanted to make it brighter in this area and cover up what, tends to look a little dingy. Now this is where I ran into some problems. I did measure properly. I did measure 53 inches for those boards. The top one fit fine. Well, then I got to the second one and I could not get that baby out. That thing was wedged in there, so I needed to shave just maybe about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch off, and then it fit fine. I used my brad nailer. I did 1 1/4 inch brad nails, and they were in there pretty secure. Now, the one last thing I wanted to do was stencil my laundry chute. We're pretty lucky to have a laundry chute, and so I wanted to use a stencil and stencil that. But before I did that, I wanted to start trying to move some things back into this closet. If you don't have vacuum bags, seriously get them, because this down comforter, it was so big. I'm like, where am I going to put this? And then I realized, oh, I can put it in my container. So these are new from the Home Depot. They actually have this little rubber seal, this little foam seal. And guess what? It's got 6 clamps. So it's bug proof, it's moisture proof. I did put a couple of moisture protectant things inside of here, those moisture wicking things, and just slid that back into place and put a couple of other, baskets in there, and it looked good. So I used my stencil cutting machine to cut the word laundry, and I had to be careful because this was moving, right? So I couldn't really press on it, otherwise it was going to pop open. So I had to be very careful, making sure I didn't get any paint, all over the white paint and ruin the fantastic painting job that I just did. So once that was on there, I did 2 coats. I let the first coat dry, went back over it with another coat, and then pulled the stencil off. Now the letter A and the D and the R, I waited until that was dry, and then I scraped off those little center pieces. Now we have 2 lights here in the hallway, and they I didn't get a before picture, but they're brassy, so I just painted those black and then added some baskets and just organized everything. And so this is what we started with, guys. It looked horrible. It just looked bad. So most of this stuff was donated or put into a container, and now it looks fresh. It's clean. I know where everything is. If you're wondering where I got the containers, you can find all that information down below. But I did buy new towels, and I bought some new rugs for the hallway. The rug that I had there, it was just old, and I just wanted something fresh to kind of match the new shelves and all of that. So you can find all those links down below. But the lights are looking really good, and I'm glad that I didn't have to pull them out and replace them. I just put a coat of black paint on them, and I'm just loving the rugs too. And let's face it, when you have kids, they do destroy your walls. So these walls do need a fresh coat of paint. This is sea salt, and you can find that link down below to that blog post with more information about the paint colors on my walls. But let's talk cost. So these pine boards were about $60. I had everything else, the paint, the stain, the top coat, the tools. So the only costs I really paid out of pocket were the boards and also the baskets. Those were brand new. So I can tell you, I will never ever become a pack rat like this again. It feels too good when it looks this good, and you just want to keep that feeling going. You want to love your house. Well, if you enjoyed this project, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to go back to thriftdiving.com. If you subscribe to my blog, you can get 5 ebooks, printables, checklists, just as a thanks for subscribing. And subscribe, because when you come back here, there will be more projects, more clean out, more room makeovers, more things to inspire you to do your own projects at home. I will see you next video.